In this episode, the hunter becomes the hunted. In the dead of night, 3 poachers close in on their target, but little do they know that there are dozens of eyes staring at them, with no moonlight to guide them, and reluctant to use their flashlights for fear of being detected by rangers. The poachers are setting ducks to the powerful lions hiding in the African bush. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the terrifying lion attack on poacher David Baloyi. Welcome to Final Affliction. In February 2018, under cover of darkness, a trio of poachers made their way across the South African border from Mozambique. Their destination was one of the private game reserves along the edge of the infamous Kruger National Park. It was pitch black, and they tripped and stumbled through the undergrowth as they made their way towards the wilderness. They didn't use any form of light, as they wanted to go unnoticed, but they had made this journey before. They knew the way. Living in the remote village of Mavudza in the Mesengiri area, a lot of the people lived a poor existence. 3/4 of the population is illiterate, but most survive through farming. Fields of corn, cassava, cowpea, peanut, sweet potato, and rice provide a meager income for families and food on the table. Houses are set amongst Mozambique's sandy soils and surrounded by agricultural land. Only 4% of the houses in the region have access to electricity, with little in the way of future prospects. 50-year-old David Baloyi was no stranger to this temptation and, along with 2 others, trekked into South Africa on February 9, 2018. They sneaked into the Umbabat Game Reserve, just south of the Olifants River that flows through Kruger National Park and into Mozambique. They carried little with them, only a handful of butchery tools and 2 .456 Winchester hunting rifles. They were on the lookout for big game. These weapons could take down the likes of elephant, rhino, and lion. The illegal trade in big cat products, rhino horn, and elephant tusks are huge commodities in China and the Far East. They can fetch thousands of dollars, and although the poachers themselves only see a small fraction of that price, it can make a difference to their livelihoods. They rely on this income to feed their families. Rhino horn is more valuable than gold on the black market. Poachers risk life and limb poaching prized animals. With poaching patrols stepping up across South Africa and many other African nations, poachers can catch a bullet from armed rangers. In neighboring Eswatini, they have a shoot-to-kill policy when it comes to poachers. But sometimes, it's the animals themselves that poachers are most in danger from. Usually, poachers hunt for their game during a full moon. This helps them to see better and means that they don't need to use a flashlight, which can be picked up by rangers on patrols. They typically hunt in 3s. One will shoot the animal, the other will cut off the body part they are after, and the third will keep watch. Nobody knows for sure which animals David and his 2 companions were after, but when they crossed into the private game reserve that night, only 2 of them would make it back out alive. Stealthily, they stalked through the bush. Their arms were scraped by the long acacia thorns protruding from the trees. Their footsteps were quiet upon the dusty, dry earth. Their hearts beat quickly as the adrenaline of the nighttime hunt began to kick in. Flicking on their flashlights for only a few seconds at a time, they found a trail, perhaps the telltale paw prints of a lion. Crouching down low to the ground, they paused and strained their eyes in the darkness. They whispered to each other, each of them listening to the sounds of the African night. But they weren't the only ones out hunting in the darkness. The 3 Mozambican men may have been carrying deadly hunting rifles, but there was something out there that was far deadlier. With thousands of years of natural killing instinct packed into a powerful body, the African lion is responsible for an estimated 200 human fatalities each year. Male lions can grow to almost 10 feet or 3 meters long, including their tail, and can weigh almost 500 pounds or 225 kilograms. In some individuals, the canines can be as much as 4 inches or 10 centimeters long. They are generalist predators, eating a wide variety of prey species from wildebeest and zebras to gemsbok, giraffe, and buffalo. Although lions do hunt during daylight hours, They mostly rely on the cover of darkness to take down prey. Like most nocturnal animals, they possess a tapetum lucidum in their eyes, which reflects more light back through the retina, helping them to see in low light. Their night vision is 6 to 8 times better than a human's. In the dark, lions definitely have the upper hand or paw. As the men crept forwards, so too did a pride of lions. David wouldn't have heard the lionesses approaching, but it seems the three of them walked straight towards an approaching pride. With no time to react, David suddenly let out a loud cry as he was knocked off his feet. He squeezed the trigger of his gun as something huge grabbed his head. The sound of the gunshot echoed across the African bush, alerting rangers far and wide. David could feel the canines sinking into his skull, and he screamed as he struggled to pull his head free. He kicked his legs and thrashed around as the immense power of the lionesses pinned him to the ground. Amongst the commotion, the other two men dropped their weapons and sprinted off in the opposite direction. David had been only feet in front of them when he was attacked. They had seen the murky outlines of several large animals diving on top of him. They heard the struggle, the moans and groans of the lions, and the screams and cries of their friend. Sheer terror gripped them as they fled, running back through the game reserve. They tripped over fallen branches and crashed through the bush. They didn't look back. Their hearts thundered in their ears as they tore through the African night. Gasping and panting, they made it to the perimeter fence and crawled through. Only once they were on the other side of the wire did they stop to catch their breath. It was a 50-mile hike back to their village. When they arrived, they had to deliver the devastating news to David's family. David had been left at the mercy of the lions. He was easy prey. His friends had abandoned him. With no way of seeing the lions in front of him, he could have walked straight into the middle of the pride. He couldn't defend himself, and it would have taken just seconds before one of the lionesses closed her jaws around his throat. Asphyxiation and exsanguination are how lions subdue their prey, and David was no exception. It wasn't a territorial attack. The lions were out on the hunt that night. They were looking for a meal. Whilst David's friends made it out alive, he was devoured by the pride of lions. The gunshots were heard by rangers who headed to the area, but when they finally located the scene of the hunt, the lions had scarpered. All that was left of David was his head. Almost his entire body had been eaten. The alarm had been sounded, and police and paramedics arrived on scene when daylight broke. David's remains were transported to Mafuta Malati Hospital mortuary. When his family learned of the tragedy from the two others on the hunt, they phoned David's sister-in-law. She lived in South Africa, and so was the closest family member to where he now lay. She agreed to formally identify him. It must have been traumatizing for her to see him like that, but she confirmed his identity, and the family were able to grieve their loss. Lieutenant Colonel Moachi Nagopi of South African Police Service was trying to piece together exactly what happened. Nobody from David's village was talking. Nobody confirmed whether the trio had been out poaching that night or not. Instead, the evidence needed to be gathered. Next to David's body lay the hunting rifles and a large amount of ammunition. These weapons indicated they were out looking for big game. There were 2 sets of footprints leading away from the scene, suggesting the other 2 sprinted away, given the length of the strides. Some may say that David got what he deserved. With so few tigers left, there is a higher demand for the use of lion bones in Asian tiger cake and wine. Anti-poaching patrols in South Africa often come across the corpses of lions. Their faces and paws have been hacked off, destined for a shipment to the Far East. Coming across such gruesome discoveries is so common now that the rangers and anti-poaching units no longer become emotional by what they see. There are now more elephants than lions in southern Africa, and their numbers are declining at a rapid rate. Habitat destruction and loss of prey from the bush meat trade, as well as conflict with farmers, are also leading to their demise on top of the ever-growing poaching problem. As long as poaching continues, thousands more animals will die, and some of the poachers will meet their terrifying final affliction.